So you want to write a book this year. That's great, but how do you even start? I am a young adult author and have set this goal for myself many times. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 7 things that helped me achieve my goal of writing a book when I made it my New Year's resolution goal to do so. You will walk away from this video empowered with actionable strategies you can put in place to help you achieve your goal of finishing your book in 2023. Before we get started, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Claire Fraise and I'm an award-winning young adult author who makes videos on this channel sharing the actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. I'm the author of young adult supernatural thriller They Stay, as well as the sequel to that book They Whisper, and the 3rd book in that series, They Return. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first strategy that you can employ to get your book written in 2023 is to break your goal down. Writing a book is a very big goal. It's so big and so much goes into it that it's really hard to wrap your mind around when trying to figure out how to achieve that goal. Instead of saying, I want to write a book in 2023, think a little bit further. Ask yourself, what actually needs to happen in order for me to write that book this year? What has to happen every month? What has to happen every week? What has to happen every day? When I draft my books, it's really easy for me to start out strong and then lose my momentum and energy around the middle of the book if I don't know where I'm going or if I have too much time and I don't feel the pressure of having to meet a deadline. What I do is that I set daily word count goals for myself. Instead of saying I need to write 100,000 words and then I'll have a book, I say, I need to write 3,000 words a day. And then if I write approximately 3,000 words a day in around 40 days, accounting for days that I have to take off or do other things, or I don't quite meet my word count goal, I will have a completed draft. It's much more achievable to face the goal of writing 100 or 500 or 3,000 words a day than it is to write a 100,000 word book. Having clear goals that you can cross off your to-do list on a day-to-day basis will also make you feel like you're making more progress than just having this one big goal that you may not be able to cross off for months or even years. In order to do this, you need to figure out for yourself how much you can sustainably write, whether that is 50 words a day, 100 words a day, or maybe it's every week. You want to write 500 words a week, and then you can do the math and figure out how many weeks like that it will take you to achieve your final goal. And this can change as you get to know yourself as a writer. You can start by setting goals of 500 or 1,000 words a day, and then you can bump it up if you find yourself writing faster, or take it down if you feel that you are not able to sustainably maintain that pace. Sitting down to write every day can be a challenge, especially when there are so many things in our lives pulling our attention away from writing, which is what brings me to my second strategy for getting that book written this year, which is creating systems and or habits to allow yourself to write. Writing a book is a lot like having a fitness goal. The actual act of writing can be difficult, it can be unpleasant, there can be days that go by where you just don't want to do it. So sometimes it's really hard to get your butt in the chair and write, just like it's hard to get your butt to the gym. How much harder would it be to get to the gym if you didn't have a gym selected that you were going to go to? If you didn't have a time carved out in every day that you were going to go to the gym? If you didn't have a car or a way to transport yourself to the gym? In order to get to the gym, you have to create the system and opportunity to move yourself there. You need to create the opportunity, environment, and system to propel you in the direction you need to go. The same is true for writing. I could never just say, oh, I'm gonna write every day. I have to be thoughtful about when I'm gonna write every day, where I'm gonna write every day, how much I'm gonna write every day, and how I'm gonna protect that time. I always write in the mornings. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I get up, I do my stretches, I take my dog for a walk to clear my head and think about the work that I'm gonna have to do that day, and then I sit my butt in the chair, make coffee, and start writing. This is my routine because I'm so consistent with it. It has gotten to the point where my brain just assumes at that time of day I'm going to be writing, and so when I don't do it, I feel all weird, like my whole day is going to be out of whack. And as soon as I'm able to sit my butt in the chair and have my coffee, it's like it triggers something in my brain and immediately puts me in this very focused state. which is the product of me doing it a lot over many, many days and now years. I really like writing in the mornings because it's the time of day where there are the least distractions. In the afternoon, I often feel like there are a lot more things pulling at my attention, whether that be animals or other responsibilities. I know very many writers who find this kind of peace at night. I am not a night owl. I used to be, I'm not anymore. I have never been able to focus at night, but maybe if you can, that's a time that can be protected and you can carve that out for writing. Whenever it is, I highly suggest choosing a time of day where you feel that you can be consistent and write at that same time every day. You can also use little tricks for your brain to help snap you into that focused state faster. For me, this looks like drinking coffee and listening to horror movie soundtracks because I write young adult supernatural thrillers. The horror movie soundtracks kind of get me right in the zone. My Spotify Wrapped mood of the morning was spooky. My third strategy for getting that book written in 2023 is to hold yourself accountable. The only way that you're gonna get that book written is by actually getting the words on the page. You are always gonna be the person who takes your writing the most seriously. If you don't advocate for yourself and protect your writing time like it matters, nobody else is gonna do it for you. You have to be the one to hold yourself accountable to your daily word counts, to your writing goals, to actually getting your butt down in the chair and working in the times that you've carved out in your day because nobody else is going to do it for you. So you have to ask yourself how badly you want it and how much you're willing to work in order to achieve it. I'm very rigid about protecting my writing time. In the mornings when I'm writing, nothing else can interfere. It doesn't matter if I'm behind on my social media marketing goals. It doesn't matter if, I need to go to the post office to go check my P.O. box. None of that matters until after I've gotten my writing finished for today. Except for personal reasons. Like if one of my loved ones needs me, if one of my animals needs me, it's different, but nothing else is able to interrupt that time. But all of that being said, it's also critically important to your creativity that you are able to balance the pressure and kind of light a fire under your butt's part of writing with also protecting your creativity and nurturing your creativity, which is what brings me to my fourth point or strategy for this video, which is listening to your mind and to your body. You need to know when you're pushing yourself too hard. Only you can know when you're pushing yourself too hard. Don't compare yourself to other authors around you. I know that it's hard to do, but every writer is different, and the way that you balance your creativity with the pressure of writing a book and how to balance this beautiful artistic creative thing that we all do with the more practical, I need to get this done, is an individual balance. It's an individual process to try to figure out what that balance is. Stress and pressure can be really bad for your creative process. It's very good when you're trying to meet deadlines and get books done, but it's not very good when you are trying to be creative. I personally find it really hard to come up with creative ideas when I'm really stressed about a book releasing, which is why I give myself so much time in the beginning of my book launches just to be creative and think about the book, and then I can have my major panic about editing when I'm closer to release day. If you are starting to lose interest in the project, if you are tired all the time, if your love for writing starts to go away, you may be pushing yourself too hard. But you also have to push yourself hard enough that you're able to meet the deadlines and actually achieve your goals. So this is a very difficult balance. I can't tell you how to do it because it's taken me a lot of trial and error to figure out where that line is for me, and I still don't really know that I have a great grasp on it. Every time I think I do, it's something comes in and rocks my perception of things a little bit, but I'm starting to understand how I work as an author and starting to take that seriously and take my observations about myself seriously instead of trying to push myself and be the author that I want to be, like the author that can write 4 books a year and have all of those book launches be perfect, because it's hard to do that. The fifth thing that you need to do to get that book written this year, because if you don't do it, it's not gonna happen, is let go of perfectionism. I know this is really hard to do. I know this is hard to hear. It's very difficult for me to let go of perfectionism, especially when I'm in my first draft. My first draft, in my head, logically, I know that my first draft is supposed to be messy. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be a disaster. But when I'm actually looking at the page, there's still a part of me, like I can feel it in my body, that doesn't want to write anything unless I know it's good. But perfectionism kills creativity. Perfectionism is the little voice in your head that tells you that you can't do it. And you need to tell this voice to shut up and go away, because it's helpful, but not in the drafting process. It's helpful when you're editing, but when you're drafting, you need to let it go. Having word count goals really helps me prevent this little perfectionistic voice from getting too loud. Because I'm moving so fast through my draft, I try to go so fast that I can't become a perfectionist about it. I have also found in the past couple of books that I've written that every time I try to make something perfect in my first draft, I more than likely end up cutting it anyway. Like, I'll do a complete rewrite and not have certain scenes or change the plot completely, and then all of the things that I agonize so hard over just end up getting deleted from the book. Another strategy I employ to get rid of that need for perfectionism is dictating. I am working on getting better at dictating. That's one of my goals for 2023, is to get better at dictation. But I'm hoping that if I am able to get good at dictating, my drafts are going to be messy anyway, and I'm not going to be agonizing as much over my draft if I'm just word vomiting dictating onto the page. All of that being said, as I mentioned, perfectionism does have its place in the writing process, and that place is in editing. My 6th tip for getting that book written in 2023 is learning how to edit. You can let go of perfectionism while you're drafting, and you should, but you need to know how to edit and be analytical and critical of your own writing in order to take your draft from being this messy, imperfect thing into something that resembles a book. Writing and editing are two completely separate skill sets. The writing and idea creation and brainstorming is all very creative, whereas the editing is all very analytical and critical. It takes time to learn how to edit, but it's a critically important skill. And the best way to learn how to edit is by critiquing and editing other people's work. This is why it's so important to join writing groups. If you are reading other people's material, and if you are analyzing the material and giving them feedback on what they could be doing differently, it will help hone your own editorial eye so that you can start putting that kind of analysis onto your own work. It's also very important that after you finish drafting, that you take some time away from your story so that you can be analytical when you are looking at it. You can be objective. I always, and I know a lot of other writers struggle with this too, I have a tendency of getting very close to my books because it's all I think about every single day, even in my dreams, all the time. So when I'm trying to edit it, I'm just right there in it still, and I need to be able to remove myself from it in order to look at it objectively without all of the different emotional ties that I have to it. And also, taking some time away from it can help you forget little details about your world, because when you're in it, you know everything so well, so you can read something and the explanation might not be good, but you know what you're talking about because you know the world so well. If you step back from the book, put it down for maybe a couple of weeks even, when you go back to it, you might have forgotten some of those little details that you had in your head, and that will help make your explanations in your book better. There are no shortcuts to learning how to edit. There are some fantastic books that can help you learn. One of my favorites is called Self-Editing for Fiction Writers. I have it over here. This is a wonderful book that I recommend with all of my heart. It has taught me so much about how to edit dialogue, how to edit show versus tell, how to edit all sorts of different things when it comes to your writing. So I highly recommend picking it up, as well as a bunch of other different resources on how to edit. And when I say edit, I'm not necessarily talking about grammar. I'm talking about the storytelling and the ways that you use narrative to actually convey and push your story forward. Grammar is definitely a part of that, but it's not the only thing that I'm talking about when I'm talking about editing. You can always use Grammarly or ProWriting Aid to correct your grammar, but you can't use Grammarly and ProWriting Aid to correct your style. So, highly recommend reading and critiquing other people's work. And that brings me to my last strategy and piece of advice, which is to explore and try different things. Every writer is extremely different. What works for you as a writer is not going to be the same as what works for me as a writer, or what works for Stephen King as a writer. The only way to learn what works for you and how you work and write the best is by experimenting and trying a bunch of different things. I have tried so many different approaches to writing, and a lot of them haven't worked for me, but it took all of that experimentation to figure out the best, most streamlined process for me, and I also had to learn how to listen to myself. So I challenge you in 2023 to be a sponge and absorb as much information about writing as you possibly can, and to actually practice and try those things and see how you feel and see if they work for you. Don't listen to people when they say that they are an expert on writing and that they have everything figured out, because nobody does. All anyone can do is share what works for them, and your job as a writer is to take that information, try it, think about it, see whether you like it or whether you don't, and decide whether you are going to implement that into your process. Because writing is art, and nobody can really teach art. People can be mentors and they can guide you, but the only way that you are going to improve is if you practice a lot and listen to yourself and figure out how you best want to tell the stories that are inside of you. There's nobody that can tell you the right or wrong way to do any of it. So that's it for this video on how to get that book written in 2023. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. My name is Claire Fraise, and I am an award-winning young adult author who makes videos on this channel sharing the actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. I make videos on crafts tips, I make book reviews sharing different craft books that I have enjoyed, I make videos breaking down plot structure, and if any of that sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe and stick around and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a video when I upload it. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Please let me know what you are working on and what the book that you're working on in 2023 is about. I would love to hear from you, and I am sure that the other wonderful members of our community would love to hear about your project as well. Happy writing, everybody.